As the iconic TARDIS hurtled through time and space, Doctor Who fans around the globe eagerly awaited the 60th anniversary specials with bated breath. The anticipation was palpable, with expectations soaring for a celebration worthy of 6 decades of timey-wimey adventures. The trilogy of specials, The Star Beast, Wild Blue Yonder, and The Giggle promised to be a cinematic feast for Whovians, with the return of the golden era of Doctor Who and the return of David Tennant, Catherine Tate, Russel T Davies, and Murray Gold. However, as the credits rolled on that final instalment, a question lingered for fans. Was it a celebration of the show's rich history? Or did it leave fans frustrated and yearning for more? Well, today I hope to answer that question, or at least give you my thoughts on answering that question. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I'm a geek, you're watching Kevin the Geek, and today I am going to be giving you some overall thoughts and reviews of the Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials, which was The Star Beast, Wild Blue Yonder, and The Giggle. I may briefly touch on the Christmas special with Ncuti Gatwa, but I'll try to avoid that because I want to focus just on the 60th anniversary specials today. Now, just before I do get started, please make sure that you do subscribe if you haven't done so already, turn on notifications and smash the like button. Of course, drop your comments down below as well. Make sure you stick around because next week I will be continuing on with my reviews of the the fifth series featuring the 11th Doctor with Matt Smith. I'll be starting with the episode The 11th Hour, and that will be done on a weekly basis. I'll go through all the different stories and work my way through up to the present day and do more in-depth reviews of these specials and the Christmas special with Ncuti Gatwa and stuff as time goes on. And of course, I will be doing reactions and my thoughts when the new series comes out with Ncuti Gatwa as well.
Oh, well, that's all right then.
Now, let's talk a little bit generally at initially. It was an anniversary special, so it was 3 episodes that was supposed to be all about celebration. And for a lot of fans, all I kept reading was frustration in reviews I was reading, of course, after I hadn't done my own reactions to it and I had my own thoughts. I wanted to get an idea of what other people were thinking. And frustration is probably the word that best, is probably best describes how a lot of people seem to be feeling. And I will say that there probably was an element of frustration on my part. And I've probably spent the last month trying to work out why I felt a bit frustrated. I won't go so far as to say I was as frustrated as many people that I've read on various comment threads and reviews and various things like that. But ultimately, I think back 10 years ago to the 50th anniversary special, which was The Day of the Doctor. And that was one single episode. Yes, there were other things that were done to celebrate it as well, such as An Adventure in Space and Time, which was the dramatization of how the show was created. You had Night of the Doctor, which brought back the 8th Doctor, which was kind of served to fill in this gap of the regenerations, because the 8th Doctor never got his regeneration. And because they had to put in an extra Doctor because Christopher Eccleston wouldn't come back for the 50th anniversary, they had to find a way of tying it all together to make it kind of seamless for the fans. And that was a bit of a celebration in that regard. But the actual episode itself, The Day of the Doctor, I don't think people went into that necessarily having incredibly high expectations. I think a lot of people knew that David Tennant was coming back. It caught some people by surprise, but for the most part, people knew that he was coming back. And at that time, it had only really been a couple of years since David Tennant had left the role, and obviously passing over to Matt Smith. So he was still kind of fresh in a lot of fans' mind. But the big thing, I think, is that Matt Smith really grabbed hold of people. There was a lot of people when David Tennant initially left the role and it passed to Matt Smith. A lot of people were unconvinced by the choice. But once you got to see Matt Smith in the role, a lot of people realised, actually, no, he is a really good Doctor. The way he is written, the way he performs it is really, really good. And so you had effectively two, kind of fan favourites in a way, kind of coming together. And then you had this new character, which was, I say new character, he was just a new incarnation of the Doctor, played by a very well esteemed actor in John Hurt. Someone who I think a lot of fans could immediately get behind. Knowing that you've got someone with the gravitas and the status of John Hurt, and of course for some of maybe the younger people who wouldn't be as familiar with him, they could link him back to when he played Ollivander in the Harry Potter movies. So there was a sense of familiarity with it. Now, they brought in a classic villain who had only ever been in one story, and they've obviously done that in this instance. You've basically got the Zygons versus the Toymaker. And I like that they do that because it is taking something that is not as familiar and giving it a modern idea and a modern twist. But I think one of the biggest things with the 60th anniversary, where it didn't pan out so well, is for a lot of people it felt like you were going too far back into the past. Rather than celebrating the present and the future of the show, it felt like you were going back and trying to drag the stuff in from the past to kind of, I don't know, kind of whitewash in a way the Chris Chibnall era and the Jodie Whittaker era, which, look, I've said it myself on the channel that I am not the biggest fan of that era. I do appreciate what they tried to do, but for a number of different factors, it just didn't work. And this was my biggest reservation going into these anniversary specials. I was thinking, am I going to get the Dr. Donna relationship that I knew and loved? And the more I thought about it, I was like, do I necessarily want that? Do I want David Tennant basically just playing a rehash of the 10th Doctor? Especially when it was confirmed that he was a new incarnation, that he was the 14th Doctor. Yes, he shares the face, but I wanted something different. And David Tennant, he did and he didn't give that to me. There were certain subtle differences, like, David Tennant's always been an emotional Doctor when he portrayed the 10th Doctor, and a more human Doctor. Some could argue he was a bit of an autistic Doctor in a way, that he's kind of much more in tune with his own feelings. Maybe Matt Smith, much further along with that, but there definitely some people could say that there is some elements of that. But all they really did was probably heightened some of those emotions. We didn't really get anything different. I wouldn't have minded actually having David Tennant use his natural Scottish accent, and maybe they say, oh, he's got his face back, but he's kind of borrowed from the 12th Doctor's era, and from the accent that Peter Capaldi used. They could have done something just a little bit more to distinguish him from the 10th Doctor. That's what I personally would have liked, just a little bit more. But for the 3 episodes themselves, I came out of them just feeling a little bit lackluster, to be perfectly blunt with you. So let's try and break down each of the 3 episodes. So The Star Beast. That just felt like that was a 10th Doctor episode. That truly felt like imagine you went from the end of time, there was no other episodes, and you go straight into this. This could have easily been literally like we've picked up and we've got back in where we left off. It's got a lot of that nostalgic feel to it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I do feel that people just wanted a bit more from it. But there was, of course, a lot of criticism aimed at it, and these main criticisms I personally don't agree with for the majority of it, and that was in relation to the inclusion of having a trans character and also having a disabled character, i.e. Shirley, the lady who worked for Unit who's in the wheelchair. So with the trans character, that of course is Rose, who is the daughter of Donna and Sean Temple. And I have no problem with them including a trans character. You know, I'm all for inclusivity, because we have more transgender people. We have more people moving into the arts who are disabled, and we're trying to make the world a much more positive place. Did they necessarily need to have those characters? No, they didn't. Was it nice to have them? For me, yes. It was nice to have more characters of different, genders or or ability in their bodies. But what I didn't like is the negative connotations that came from it. And the one that I really didn't like was how a lot of people towards the character of Shirley, they were like, oh, but she's clearly not disabled because didn't you see in one particular scene she crossed her legs? So? So? There are a lot of people who use wheelchairs but don't necessarily need to use them all the time. That don't necessarily mean that they have no use of their legs whatsoever. My uncle's wife, she will use a wheelchair from time to time. She can stand up, she can walk about, but it does cause her difficulty. And so she will use that from time to time. And that is exactly the case with the actress who plays Shirley. I apologise, I can't remember her name. But she is one of those people that, again, she can walk and she can stand up. However, it does cause her pain if she does it for long periods of time. So the majority of the time, she gets by using a wheelchair. And I like the fact that that they didn't make her a weak character. They made her a very strong-willed character. But at the same time, I can't help but think it does kind of play at odds a little bit with Russell T Davies' comments, about the stereotypes for people with disabilities and various things. And I think, was that him trying to push an agenda a little bit too far by having the inclusion of this character? Maybe it could be argued, particularly with the fact that you make this a character who has rockets coming from the wheelchair and things. It did kind of over dramatize the situation a little bit more with that. But by the by, I'm prepared to let that go. I think she was a great character in her own right, despite the fact that she was in a wheelchair. And that's what I liked with her. She was well written. She was well performed. Had you taken that exact same character and made her able-bodied, would it have made any difference? Again, if we take away the rocket wheelchair launcher aside for a moment, would there have been much difference? I think not, because it was a well-written character. And I like that with her. The Rose character, she was fine. I don't feel that there was enough about her other than the ending of the episode. And that's one where I wasn't necessarily a fan. The fact that they used the trans aspect and the binary or the non-binary aspect as part of the resolution, I wasn't so keen on that. For me personally, there are other people who absolutely hate that idea and think that the show should be shut down as a result of it. And there are other people who go, I don't care. And there are other people that go, yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was amazing. Me personally, I wasn't a fan of it, but again, I'm prepared to let it go. Which ironically does lead me to one thing that I really didn't like. And that was the whole thing about Donna letting it go, i.e., letting go of the Time Lord consciousness. That was something I really didn't like. And the reason that I didn't like that is, quite frankly, like, if you had taken some of the things that were said by Donna and Rose there and changed the context of it. Imagine that those words had been said to the 13th Doctor, and they changed the word from like man to woman or male to female. If they had swapped it, the other way round.
It's a shame you're not a woman anymore. She'd have understood. We've got all that power, but there is a way to get rid of it. Something a male-presenting Time Lord will never understand.
Like, I don't think... I think people would have been really up in arms and going, oh my god, that is so misogynistic, and imagine what they're saying to him and saying like, you should have been a man and blah 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 blah. Like, that would have attracted so many keyboard warriors in that moment had you done the same thing, for example, at the time of the Jodie Whittaker era. But yeah, it was just, I thought it was stupid. The whole thing of just going, yeah, we're just going to let it go. I personally just didn't like the resolution. But then we had 2 more episodes. And while Blue Yonder was an episode that had a good kind of premise and a good kind of setup, but again, I just felt like I'm waiting for more. I'm waiting for more from these specials. And I think ultimately what I would have preferred is for an extended version of what we got with the Giggle and expanded that over the 3 episodes. Because I just feel that, first of all, Neil Patrick Harris was absolutely amazing in his role as the Toymaker. I think he was absolutely brilliant. I think the way that they did that was just superbly written. I don't know how much of it they had written it in mind for him or how much they adapted it with the resulting thing that he came on board for it. I obviously would probably never know the answer to that question. But he just looked like he was having so much fun with the role. He was just having the most amazing time. And the storyline around it was actually really good, even with the simplicity of it. But that's the thing, I think, because you have all these 3 episodes that have tried to cram in so much into 3 separate storylines, there was a bit of a disconnect, I think. I think, yes, there was a lot of callbacks, a lot of nostalgia throughout these episodes. You had, obviously Bonnie Langford coming back in as Mel, one of the former companions, which was a nice touch. Now, for me personally, I don't know really that character. I've not really seen any of the stuff that she was in, but I got enough sense to feel that she was a celebration of the past. But I still didn't feel the show itself in the 3 episodes was really celebrating the whole history of the show. And maybe this is just me. And again, maybe this is me in my expectations coming into this. I just wanted so much more. And I feel let down because I didn't get what I was kind of imagining I was going to get. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do really enjoy each of these 3 episodes. Yes, I have my complaints. Yes, I have my criticisms. But there was just still something lacking throughout. And I just think we needed more. And I don't know if that makes any sense to you. And I'm probably saying a lot of the same stuff and kind of repeating myself a little bit here. But that is truly how I feel. I just feel that they didn't quite hit the nail on the head. Now, I did initially not necessarily like the whole bi-generation thing. I think it's because of the potential connotations. I think it's because, in a way, contrary to what I was saying about letting it go, that some things that you should just be able to let go. This is where I felt that Russell T Davies couldn't let go of the Doctor, i.e. the David Tennant Doctor, and Donna Noble. I think he is so intrinsically clinging to his past glories that he just couldn't let the character regenerate again. He couldn't just let the character move on. Which, if I am right in that, I think that's very sad, to be perfectly honest with you. I probably am wrong there. I'm probably wrong in how Russell T Davies, imagines the character. But the whole idea that the Doctor is needing to go through therapy and go through rehab, something just doesn't quite click for me. And this is what's making me think, is David Tennant going to come back in the Ncuti Gatwa era? I get this feeling that he may do. And at the moment, there's a lot of theories going around that Jodie Whittaker may come back in, that she may be the mother of Ruby from the Christmas episode, because she seemed to be wearing boots and trousers that seem to be reminiscent of what Jodie Whittaker wore. I mean, that's one that I personally don't imagine will be the case, but hey, I could be entirely wrong with that. But yeah, I think having the Doctor stick around, the 14th Doctor, it's like, why? Because now all the fans are going to be going, I don't like Ncuti Gatwa, or I don't like the 16th Doctor, or I don't like the 17th Doctor. Let's bring back in the 14th Doctor because he's still around and he's still got a TARDIS. We can just bring him in for an episode or an entire series. Because we don't like whoever we've got now. And I just feel it's playing a very dangerous game having them around. I mean, it's one thing to say that we're going to bring them in for a one-off episode or something because we're going to go and see them back when they were around in the past. It was just in their time that they existed in, and it was a story that we didn't see when we saw them in their original era. But to have them literally kind of coexisting, I'm just wondering and worrying, are they going to, is Russell T Davies planning something really, really big? I honestly don't know. We're going to have to wait and see with that one. But yeah, there was a lot of good stuff with the 60th anniversary specials, but I was just left wanting more. Now, please do let me know what your thoughts were of the 60th anniversary specials, what you think of Ncuti Gatwa as the new Doctor, what you think of David Tennant having come back, and the whole situation with Donna coming back, and all the other wonderful stuff that happened to celebrate the 60th anniversary. Now, next week, I am going to be returning back to doing my reviews of Doctor Who. I've done all the way through the David Tennant era so far, up to the end of Series 4 and the specials. Next week, I'm going to be starting with Series 5 with the 11th Hour, which was the very first episode, full episode, featuring Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. So make sure you check that out. You can check out all my other Doctor Who related content on the channel, along with my various different reactions I've done for various different TV shows as well over the time. But for now, my name's Kevin. I'm a geek, and you have been watching Kevin the Geek. Goodbye.